In this video, I will discuss the civil PE application process for California, as well as the Civil Seismic Principles exam. When you apply for licensure as a civil engineer in California, you will submit your application in the board's Connect portal. Once you submit your application, you're able to monitor the status of your application review and address any deficiencies. The application status definitions are noted here. Initially, when you submit your application, it's going to go under review. They're going to do kind of a triage to make sure you have the proper work experience, number of references, that you've passed the laws and rules exam. If you get through that process, then it goes into technical review, where they're going to take a more critical look at all of those things. You might receive a deficiency notice either under review or technical review status. In that case, that will set back your application approval process. Ultimately, you're looking to get to exam eligible without having any deficiencies. Usually that process takes about 5 to 6 months from when you submit your application to when you reach exam eligible. Even applications that are from people out of state who are licensed civil PE in another state and they're just looking for reciprocity, that generally does not speed up the process. It still can take 5 to 6 months. There's 2 state-specific civil engineering exams: the Engineering Surveying Exam, or the CES exam, and then the Seismic Principles CSP exam. Both exams are multiple choice. They're computer-based tests, and they're administered at Prometric testing centers. The exam length is 2.5 hours for each of the exams, unless you're provided special accommodations, which can occur. In terms of scheduling an exam appointment, once your application reaches exam eligible, you can log into the Connect portal and pay for and request to take the exams. You'll have the choice to take the exams in one of 2 following quarters in which the applicant makes the exam requests and pays for the exam fees. The caveat is that the applicant will not be able to take the exams in the same quarter in which you make the exam request and pay your exam fees. After payment, the applicant will receive authorization to test, or ATT notices, via email with instructions on how and when to schedule the exams through Prometric. And the exam results, candidates will receive their exam results via email the month following the month in which you take the exam. And the results are typically released by mid-month. So if you take the exam the first of a particular month or the very last day of a particular month, you will receive the results the following month, usually around, could be as early as the 8th, or it could be 10th. Sometimes it's later, depending on the board's workload. The exam eligible applicants, this applies to both initial and re-exam applicants, those who have taken the exam before and need to retake it. If you request and pay for your exam, let's say in quarter 1, then you're eligible to take the exam, or exams if you're doing both, in the following quarter 2 or quarter 3. Likewise, if you submit, pay, and request your exams in Connect, say in the 4th quarter, you're looking at the following year's 1st or 2nd quarter to be able to take the exams. And then this is where you would select what quarter you wish to take the seismic exam and the surveying exam. Usually my recommendation is do not take them in the same quarter. You do not have to. You can choose one quarter for one exam, another quarter for the other exam, or if you're going to take them in the same quarter, you should at least take one at the beginning of the quarter, at which point you can then start studying for the other one and take that one at the very end of the quarter. In terms of rescheduling the CSP or even the CES exam, if you decide that you're not ready for the exam, you want to reschedule it, or sometimes somebody might feel like they are ready and they want to move their exam forward. There's no fee if you reschedule at least 30 days prior to your current exam date, and there's a $70 fee if you reschedule between 3 and 29 calendar days. Essentially, you're going to forfeit the exam fee if you reschedule less than 3 calendar days before your currently scheduled exam. And that rescheduling, you have to use that website URL or call the 800 number. The CSP Seismic exam, as well as the surveying exam, is administered by Prometric, Inc. They have continuous testing, so theoretically you could take the exam every quarter of the year. You obviously don't want to be doing that. You want to take it and pass it, maybe take it twice if you have to. But the one thing to point out here is if you take the exam in the last month of any quarter, then you're going to get the results in the beginning of the following quarter, at which point, if you did not pass that exam, you're going to have to sit out that whole quarter, take it on the next quarter. So if you're always taking it the last month of any quarter, you're going to sit out the next quarter, have to take it 2 quarters later. The exam is a computer-based test, 55 multiple choice questions, 2.5 hours, time limit. Again, unless you're provided special accommodations, sometimes people are given time and a half or double time. And if you're not provided special accommodations, that 55 questions in 2.5 hours is an average of 2 minutes 45 seconds per problem. That is way faster than the 8-hour NCEES exam. The CSP Seismic exam will most likely be the most difficult exam you will ever take in your engineering career, unless you go on to take the structural engineer's exam. Then I can vouch that that one is probably more difficult. I've done them both, and the SE was more difficult. The units are US customary units, so all problems where you have to calculate force or weight or anything like that, those are going to be in either pounds or kips. Dimensional units like deflections or story drift or member length, beam span, column height, those are going to be in feet or inches or a combination thereof. There is no metric on the seismic or surveying exams. There is metric on the 8-hour exam. In terms of taking your exam, you should arrive at least 30 minutes before your scheduled exam appointment. I noted that the exam is 2.5 hours in length. If you look at your examination confirmation, it may say 3 hours or something more than that. That's to account for the fact that you want to show up early, you need some time to get settled, get into your workstation where you're going to be taking the test, and get your books laid out before the exam actually starts. But the exam itself is only 2.5 hours in length. There is identification required in order for you to access the exam center. Reference materials, unlike the 8-hour exam, you're permitted to bring as many references into the testing room as one trip and one box will permit. And they refer to a banker's box. You can get those at Office Depot or office stores in general. Banker's box is 10 inches tall, 15 inches wide or long, and 24 inches deep. Anything larger than that would not be permitted. All reference materials must be bound and remain bound during the exam. So if you have the SDR workbook and the SDR practice exams, those are spiral bound. That's not a problem. Any copies of handouts or notes that you take need to be 3-hole punched and put in a binder. So there's no loose papers, no stapled papers that would be considered loose. Any code references that you're bringing in, ASCE 716 or the IBC or CBC, those need to be bound as well. So again, spiral binding is okay, and so is ring binders. Calculator usage, you're limited to 2 calculators in the exam testing area. Keep in mind that the calculator requirements are different than what they are for the NCEES 8-hour exam. The use of any calculating computing device having a QWERTY keypad arrangement similar to a typewriter or keyboard during the examination is strictly prohibited. So that's the main thing that the board is very adamant that you're not allowed. Calculators where you can, essentially type in text. The CSP test plan, besides downloading it from the board's website, it's in the SDR workbook on page Roman numeral 19. There's 7 content areas, each of which have different percentages in terms of the 55 total questions that you're going to be exposed to. The main ones, content area Roman numeral 4, 5, and 6, that's seismic forces for building structures, non-building structures, components and equipment, and seismic analysis procedures. Those add up to 66%, or about 2/3 of the exam. That constitute SDR workbook chapters 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and a little bit of chapter 1 as well. The exam results are reported as either pass or fail. Pass is in email notification. It's going to have like a little green area on the notification that'll say pass. Fail is not what you're looking for, obviously. There's no scores reported. Candidates who fail the exam are provided with a diagnostic report to indicate the performance in each of the 7 content areas. To get to the diagnostic report, you'll see the date for the exam, the name of the exam, and then where it says fail, there's actually a hyperlink there. If you click on it, then it should drop down and show the diagnostic report. The diagnostic report reflects this method of reporting: proficient, marginal, or deficient, and those will be assigned to each of the 7 content areas. Proficient means that you scored above the level of minimal competence in that content area. That could be 75% or greater. I'm just guessing here because the board does not publish this information, but it could be that proficient means you got to score 75% or better in that content area. Marginal means you scored at the level of minimal competence, and there's going to be a range there. So that could be 75% to 60%. Somewhere in that range would be possibly considered marginal. Deficient means that you scored below the level of minimal competence. So if the level of minimal competence was 60%, then it would be anything less than 60% in that particular content area. Now, it's important to note that you do not have to be proficient in all content areas, or you don't even have to be marginal in all content areas. If you have a deficiency in 1 or 2 content areas, then you're going to need a proficient content area that's of a large enough percentage of the exam to kind of balance that out. So theoretically, I think you could score marginal in every content area, all 7, and pass the exam. But it's also possible, if you're on the low end of marginal, like close to 60% or 61%, let's say, in all the content areas, that may not be good enough to pass. So this is an image of a actual CSP exam diagnostic report. You can see the date of the exam, August 29th, the name of the exam, California Seismic Principles exam, and then it has a fail list there. So if you click on the fail, then it should drop down what you're seeing here in terms of the diagnostic report. So this person in particular happened to be marginal in content areas 2, 4, 6, and 7, and they were deficient in content Roman numeral content areas 1, 3, and 5. And those add up to 28%. So 28% deficient, 72% marginal. Still, that may mean they were kind of close to passing, but not close enough. Now, normally the board will publish the results by quarter, passing percentage and the number of people who took it. Back in 2022, in one of the board's bulletins, they broke down even further. Instead of just quarter, it was by month for the quarters. And it's interesting but not surprising to me that for all the seismic principles exams and actually the engineering surveying exams, most people took it in the last month of a quarter. So March for the quarter 1, June for quarter 2, September for quarter 3, and December for quarter 4. And that was the lowest percent passed. So I think that's probably the procrastination factor. Most people who are going to be taking it at the very end of the month or in the last month of a quarter, they're more likely to be ill-prepared for the exam. They put it out as far as they could, so you get a significant drop in the percent pass. So you could have, close to 60% passing in January and February, and then it plunges to almost 20% less. And similar for second quarter and third quarter and fourth quarter, and like I said, for engineering surveying as well. Now, the civil engineering exams reference list, this is on the board's webpage. The seismic references are shown here. The top one is the 2022 California Building Code. That consists of 2 volumes, 2 binders for that. That 2022 CBC was published in July of 2022. It adopts the 2021 International Building Code, or IBC, but it also provides California amendments from state agencies. It is the reference building code for the board since 2024 quarter 1, and it will be replaced by the 2025 California Building Code, which will be based on the 2024 IBC starting in 2027 with the first quarter. So this is the first page of the CBC. 2022 CBC clearly states it's based on the 2021 International Building Code. The effective date was January 1st, 2023, but it was not effective for the CSP exam until a year later, so 2024. Now, because it's based on the 2021 IBC, you can use the IBC for this exam. And I actually prefer to use the 2021 IBC. It's cheaper. It's 1 volume instead of 2, and there's no reason you can't use it. I'll show you a comparison of Chapter 16, first page in the IBC. This is on page 16-1. So it's the structural design chapter. This is the bottom portion of that page. In the CBC, Chapter 16 is on page 16-3 instead of 16-1. And you'll see there's a fair amount of italics here. Now, those are requirements or amendments that are put in from different state agencies. There's also a Chapter 16A, and that shows up on page 16A-3 in the 2022 CBC. And the board has a handout that has to do with building design authority, that structural engineers may design any building of any type, civil engineers may design any building of any type, except public schools and hospitals. So in California, a public school and hospitals need to be designed or under the responsible charge of a licensed structural engineer. Licensed civil engineers can do any other buildings, but they can't be in responsible charge of public schools and hospitals. So from that standpoint, when we look at this chapter 16A, the application, it notes that structures regulated by the Division of the State Architect, Structural Safety Section. These applications include public elementary and secondary schools and community colleges. those are public schools. And then the second item there is applications regulated by the Office of Statewide Health Planning and Development. Since the publication of this, they've changed their acronym to, instead of OSHPD, it's HCI. And these applications include hospitals and correctional treatment centers. Again, licensed SE, required and responsible charge. So from that standpoint, the A chapters are not applicable for the civil seismic principles exam, the seismic exam. So if you have the CBC, use the do not use the A chapters. You want to use chapter 16 and 17 and 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, but not the A versions of any of those chapters. The next reference applicable here is the minimum design loads for buildings and other structures. That is ASCE 716. There's a new version, ASCE 722, but it's not adopted by the building code yet. It will be, which will be applied in January of 2027, ASCE 722, but 716 is what you want for the exam up through 2026. All the way to the end of 2026. Noted on page 35-4 in the IBC, not only is ASCE 716 adopted, but so is Supplement 1 that goes with it. When you look at the CBC, that's one of the differences between the IBC and the CBC. IBC just picks up Supplement 1, but the CBC also picks up Supplement 2 and 3. Those are all those supplements are incorporated into the SDR workbook and the SDR practice exams, so you don't have to worry about them. But if you were interested, you could do a Google search of ASCE 716 Supplement 1 and then do it for 2 and 3, and you'll get those hyperlinks there. The Supplement 1 is applicable to the wind chapter, chapter 6. It's not seismic related, so you don't have to worry about that supplement. Supplement 2 is related to chapter 12. That is a seismic chapter, so it does affect things applicable to the exam, but again, the workbook has incorporated these supplements into it. This Supplement 3 is applicable to chapter 11. That's also a seismic related chapter, so it does impact things. As I noted, the SDR workbook and SDR practice exams reference page numbers, sections, tables, and figures from the 2021 IBC. If you're using the CBC Volume 2, the sections, tables, and figures will be the same, but the page numbers may be slightly different. You saw Chapter 16 started on page 16-1 in the IBC, but in the CBC it starts on 16-3. So a little bit of manipulation you'll have to do with the page number references that you see in the workbook or the practice exams solutions, but it shouldn't be too difficult. That's it for this video. The next video is going to discuss the SDR workbook, the SDR practice exam books.